Hi, this is Macroeconomics Review, lecture number 2. We're going to start off talking about unemployment, the types of unemployment in the economy, and what are the levels of unemployment that we find to be natural, things that we have to accept or can't really control, and then what is the type of unemployment that becomes the focus for macroeconomic policies. First one we discuss is structural. Structural unemployment pertains to unemployment that ensues from some type of obsolescence in the marketplace, what Schumpeter would call creative destruction. As new technologies are born and developed and adopted, they typically will supplant older technologies or older products. Those people involved in the development and manufacture of the products that are being obsoleted, being replaced by new things, find themselves unemployed. The only way they could not be unemployed is if we were somehow to mandate that new products weren't going to be introduced and accepted. If we had a world in which there would be no iPad 2 or new iPad that we have to use instead of an abacus or a piece of paper, because we had people who were dedicated to manufacturing that and didn't want to lose those jobs to this new competing technology of computerization or tablets. But we don't want that type of world. We enjoy the innovations and the new products that give us enhanced capabilities, maybe technologies, and productive and personal enjoyment. So structural unemployment is something that's going to always be in the economy. We can't change it. Macro policy can't do nothing. As a side note, we can attack structural unemployment, but not through typical macro policies. That would be through retraining of the labor force and changing the marginal revenue product of labor, making them more productive in other pursuits. Second, frictional unemployment results from the unemployment that we observe that happens when people change their jobs, when they move from one place to another, or they try to go through a job search process. There's some delay, some frictional stickiness, which impedes an instantaneous rate of change and quick identification of new opportunities. This friction, this lag in easy, quick transitions is something that is part and parcel of having an economy that's flexible, that permits people the freedom to change their occupations or change jobs or change locations and places they live. Again, we don't want to do away with that. Structural means we have new products all the time. Frictional means that people have opportunities to pursue new career paths or new jobs. So both those things can be productive for the economy. They're there, they represent some part of the unemployment number, but it's going to be there. Macro policy can't attack it. Seasonal frequently more often than not, has been dropped from a lot of textbooks. I'm going to leave it in, maybe on the AP. Frictional unemployment relates to unemployment that pertains to seasonal occupations that are going to have a peak or a time during which they can be pursued that relates to the seasons, the tilt of the axis of the earth. That we can have ski instructors in the winter or downhill skiing instructors in the winter and water skiing instructors in the summer, but off-season water ski instructors in the wintertime probably aren't getting a lot of people to go out with wetsuits and try to get frozen. So seasonal employment happens because certain jobs can only be done in particular seasons. Again, we can't really change that. So there's 3 types of unemployment that we can't change. Now, those types of unemployment, these 3 types of unemployment, in our society at this moment, this will be different numbers, different places, different times, but at this current time, and we're speaking here of spring of 2012, these 3 types of unemployment add up to approximately 5 or 5.2%. See, it's somewhere around there, but I think it's comfortable, you can be safe to use something like 5% to represent these 3 types of unemployment that cannot be addressed with macro policy. Now, if there were no other type of unemployment, this base rate of unemployment that cannot be eradicated with macro policies would represent about 5% of the labor force. That's the reason we call this the full employment unemployment number, because if all other people were employed and only those people who would fall into these categories were unemployed, we'd have full unemployment except for them, and that would constitute 5% unemployment, or we could call it the natural rate of unemployment. Again, it's another term, natural rate of unemployment or full employment unemployment, 5%. An unemployment number greater than that represents some other contributing factor in unemployment that we haven't addressed here, or less than that, would mean that somehow we've gone over full. We've running the economy at a level higher than its normal sustainable level of activity. The fourth type of unemployment, now we've had the space that we can't control. The fourth type of unemployment is called cyclical. Cyclical pertains to exactly cycles, business cycles. Business cycles are in many textbooks explained as inventory adjustment problems or mechanisms. As firms trying to adjust and anticipate the market, they build up their inventories of merchandise that's ready for sale but not sold. But if the economy falters, or if these firms misjudge and don't estimate correctly what the demand will be, they find themselves with excess in inventory. When they have more than they need to support their current sales, they'll lay off their employees. That results in some unemployment, downturn in the economy, short recession, until finally they sell through that inventory that's been overbuilt, and then demand would pick up and require more employees to try to compensate for increased demand when inventories are gone, and then we suddenly have a recovery. So we can have these cycles that are somewhat normal to a market-driven economy, because we don't have central planning. The people try to adjust and guess where we're going to go. Things are stochastic or random. But what we can do, although we can't really eliminate all business cycles, we can use macro policy to mitigate or minimize the amplitude, the size of the swings in the business cycles. So this is called cyclical unemployment. This cyclical unemployment is going to be any deviation above or below the 5%. If we have a 7%, 8% unemployment level, it means we have a 5% that pertains to these three types of unemployment we can't control, and maybe a 3% of the labor force is unemployed through some reaction, some consequence of swings in the business cycle. That's what macro policy will address. We're going to try to minimize and eliminate as much of this cyclical unemployment as possible.